Hello.
Good morning, and on behalf of the National Science Foundation, I welcome you all to this webinar on research and development needs in agriculture sector. Before starting the formal proceedings today, I would like to share some housekeeping rules with you all. Asela, the next slide, please. Some housekeeping rules. Please mute your microphones to avoid disturbances during the presentations and also your videos. If you have any questions during the presentations, post them using the chat box. The NSF staff will unmute your microphones to ask questions during the brainstorming discussion, but please raise your hands prior to asking the questions so the moderator can take your question and answer them. Muting your microphones and videos done by the NSF is needed for the smooth functioning of the program, and hope you will all cooperate with us on this regard. For any inquiries, you can contact me through my mobile note 714-447-663. I am available on WhatsApp, Viber, and you can also email anything, any issues that you have to dilani@nsf.gov.lk. Okay, to begin the day's proceedings, I would like to cordially invite our chairman, Emeritus Professor Ranjit Senaratne, to give away the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhirani. Good morning. Professor Nadira Karunavi, the chairperson of Research Arm of the National Science Foundation and president of the National Academy of Sciences. Dr. Chandra Abudenia, chairman of Technology Development Arm of the National Science Foundation, former vice chancellor of University of Uavelaka, vice chancellor, and also former president of the National Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Rishi Sahid, chairman of the steering committee on agriculture and also president of the Agri Entrepreneurs Forum. Dr. Janaki Gunaratna, leading food technology in the country, who has been earlier serving as a principal scientist in the food technology division. Scientists, entrepreneurs, technologists, joining head of division of research and other members joining the webinar from NSF. I also wish to extend the most warm and cordial welcome to our chairperson of the Research and Technology Development Arms, resource person, and those joining this webinar from other institutions. I thought under opening remarks, I will briefly touch upon the background to this. The NSF, in keeping its mandate to promote science and technology for national development under the pandemic context, is in the process of charting a new course to respond effectively to current and emerging, and here we will focus mainly on agriculture. In order to do this task effectively, we have actually embarked upon a couple of novel initiatives. First, we redesigned, remodeled the research and development, that is research and technology divisions of the NSF, and reposition even NSF so that it would be able to respond effectively to the current and emerging challenges and needs. In this connection, we established research and technology development arms with the right blend of scientists and also representative industry entrepreneurs. So there's a good balance of scientists and also those who come from the real world. So the public-private partnership is a common thread running across all the divisions, not only in research and technology, but other divisions. That is a common thread. So that is the bottom line, is public-private partnership. So we have accorded top priority to forging strategic public-private partnership in a mutually rewarding and reinforcing manner in the interest of industry and the country at large. So the research and technology development arms are seamlessly and inextricably interwoven. It's one family. And as our Dr. Chanda says, it's one value chain. So we are all members of one family. Therefore, this webinar provides a platform for the scientists, entrepreneurs, technologists in agriculture and allied fields to deliberate on important issues and challenges and identify a few high priority, high impact projects which could deliver in the short run while having a focus in a longer time horizon would really focus on short-term deliverables, that means including some low-hanging fruits to respond to the needs of the economy. I think necessary ingredients and elements are in place I want to elaborate a little about this technology and research, these two arms. Now, generally, in the past, these two arms have been operating more or less independently. But here, now we have actually identified, very judiciously, carefully identified Dr. Chandra Abuldinia. He is two in one. He is also an academic who has been the founder, vice chancellor. So he is well versed about the university needs, how it functions, and its dynamics. And also he was the former president of the National Chamber of Commerce. This two-in-one person, actually with long arms. So he is one side working closely with research division, then with industry. So actually that way I think bringing research, the technology development arm, bringing research and industry together to build organic partnership. I think this is, I think, a new trend, a salient feature of our thinking of NSF. I don't want to take any more time. So I again thank the chairpersons of the research and technical development arms, its members who have been working with great dedication, devotion, and distinction in the past couple of months. Now they have actually had the series of deliberations, and now we have especially now the Rishi, my friend Mr. Rishi Sahid. He is a mover and shaker of industry. He has a very strong network. So he would be a key player among the resource persons of this webinar, this online discussion. And so is Dr. Janaki Gunratna. She is actually with a lot of passion, a lot of commitment, not only to research, also to commercialize the discoveries and findings emanating from research for the common good. So with these brief opening remarks, I conclude my address, and I wish this very important topical event great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that informative opening remarks. Before the start of the presentations by our eminent resource panel, may I request from them all to limit their presentations to the allocated time, because we have a very tight schedule. So moving in the program, the next is the presentations by our chairpersons of Research Arm and Technology Development Arm. As our chairman, Professor Senaratna, said, the National Science Foundation, with the intention of driving the research culture towards a new paradigm, established two arms at the NSF, namely Research Arm and the Technology Development Arm. The Research Arm is spearheaded by Professor Nadira Karunavira, Chair Professor of Parasitology, University of Colombo, and the Technology Development Arm is chaired by Professor Chandra Ambuldeniya, former Vice Chancellor, Founder Vice Chancellor, Bovellasa University. Now they will speak about the importance of research and development in agriculture and agribusiness very briefly within the allocated time of 10 minutes. Over to you, sir and madam.
Can I invite Professor Nadir first?
Professor Karunavira? We need to unmute her.
What is the issue? Right.
Is it visible?
Madam.
Yes, madam, we can see.
Right, you can hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
We
madam.
can hear you
Right.
clearly, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Chairman NSF Professor Ranjit Senaratne, Dr. Chandra Ambuldeniya, Chair Technology Arm, members of Research Arm, as well as members of Technology Arm, and all other participants and invitees, resource persons. Good morning, everyone. I would like to just set the stage for this webinar on research and development needs in agriculture sector that's led by Mr. Rizvi Zaid. I have, it's not moving. All right, okay. I am from a background of health or medicine. But I'm here as the chair of the research arm. I would like to, I will try and emphasize the need for research in this sector as well, and highlight some issues that needs attention, or rather success stories from the past. So I couldn't help but start off with this slide with the challenges that we are all facing as a country and as the entire world due to COVID. Just to show you where Sri Lanka is when we look at the case numbers that are rising very rapidly. So the trend is not at all encouraging. And also it's even more discouraging when you look at the figure for deaths per million population, where Sri Lanka is at the top, and the trend line is rather sharp. So we do have a lot of challenges ahead of us because of COVID and unrelated, most things related to COVID and other issues as well. So it is obvious, as Professor Ranjit Senaratne said, the NSF has now there are new initiatives for optimal utilization of limited funds available. I think as a country, as a whole, we are trying to do this, and because Sri Lanka has a history of poor investments in R&D. It's not only the volume of investments, but lack of focus as well. It has been rather diffuse, which has really resulted in where we are today. So I think I don't need to stress the importance of impactful research that will generate valid data, which would enable use of evidence-based and scientifically validated approaches that will facilitate the practice of cost-effective and energy-efficient methods, which are urgently needed to address local problems and improve the industry outputs. So obviously it will be the secret for success at individual level, as well as groups, as well as for the country. So this is just to show where we are in to show evidence to what I just mentioned, spending on research and development. Mind you, this is not only public spending, public funds, but it includes private funds as well. So Sri Lanka is nowhere, which is very because it at very, very low levels. And look at the countries that have made huge investments for research, and they are reaping the benefits because of this focused and productive research methods that they have been using. So relevance is the key, relevance and importance of scientific research. I'll try to focus on agriculture because it's the topic of that we want to address today through this webinar. So well-designed and focused studies obviously will benefit each and every loop in this chain, finally benefiting the consumer as well. I will take a few examples of contributions from the past where scientific research in the agriculture has provided a lot of impact. This is the best example that I could find in paddy industry. This is the use of new and improved rice. You can see how the trend line is and how people have taken up the new and improved products, while the traditional rice varieties have really died down. And even the improved ones haven't taken off because of the advantages of the new and improved varieties that have come out into the market. So these kind of things don't happen overnight, and they don't happen just automatically. It's behind these achievements. There's a lot of work that has been done through the research institutes, and this is just to again emphasize that point. From 1940s onwards, these blue bars indicate the population, how it has increased up. This is 2010 onwards.
Madam, you are muted.
Was I muted earlier also?
For about 1 minute, you were muted, madam.
Did I explain this?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay, right. So from 1940 onwards, this shows the trend of using new and improved varieties of rice, the impact, and this blue bars shows the population which has increased from 1940 onwards. This is 2010 beyond. And the orange one shows the production of rice in million tons, and how, you can see how it has expanded over the years. And even more importantly, the productivity has expanded over the years. And it is creditable to this sector how the rice imports as a percentage requirement has reduced over the years, and from 2010 onwards we haven't really imported rice. This year may be an exception, but this is a huge success story that needs to be portrayed. So this paper really describes the journey, how the rice industry has improved through huge amounts of research that have gone into this area at the Rice Research and Development Institute. I will take a few more interesting examples that I picked up. This is about the fragrance gene using that has been studied using molecular methods. This was a collaboration between University of Wyoming and the Rice Research Development Institute, Department of Agriculture. And to cut a long story short, the outcome indicated that they identified these genotyping markers, which allowed a study of genomic organization of this gene of interest, which really is responsible for the fragrance of this rice. And they studied the local rice using those markers, and they were able to screen a lot of local rice varieties, and they compared those with the standard basmati and jasmine rice as well, the genetic identity. So it was of practical use because of the development of these genetic markers. It reduced the breeding cycle, and it enabled them to screen for high value rice, which is very useful for that industry. And this technique that was developed is now currently used in rice breeding programs at these research institutes. So it's they also looked at a genetic cross that was identified, that produces a higher yield, about 4 times that of the regular rice. So it was a huge success, and they partly attributed to the good collaborations that they had between the university sector and the research institute from the very beginning of the project. So I think this is a good lesson for researchers as well as from the universities as well as in research institutes, how the collaborative partners have to get together in order to plan out these studies. So it has provided a way to produce high value rice, and obviously the farmers benefit and the country as a whole. These details are given in this publication that came out in the Journal of National Science Foundation in 2010. The second study that I thought was interesting was the study on coconut residues as a potential source of dietary fiber. It was done at the Coconut Research Institute, and the purpose was to look at the cell wall structure to assess the nutritional and functional properties of coconut flour that they wanted to study, and compare it with the raw flour, which we usually use, the white flour. So what they did was they resulted in production and commercialization of this coconut flour, and it was really introduced into the export market. So it's not only sold locally, but it is exported as well. And it demonstrated that it's a suitable source of dietary fiber, which has a higher nutritional value than just using the white flour. So it supplements the regular flour that we are using. And this happens to be a byproduct in the virgin coconut oil industry. So obviously it added a lot of value to this industry, and is now available at the Coconut Research Institute. Already at least 2 companies are producing this coconut flour for local use as well as for export. And it is used as a supplement, as I said earlier, to wheat flour or the white flour that we are using, which doesn't have any fiber content. So nutritionally, it is very poor. So it could be supplemented with coconut flour to enrich it. And it can be used for bakery items by supplementing at 20 to 30%, which increases the nutritional value. So it's obviously a value addition to the Sri Lankan coconut industry and the income. The last study that I would very briefly mention is very fascinating, pollination using weevils that was used to increase the yield in oil palm. They used laboratory bred pupae. Initially, they had to be imported from Malaysia, and they were grown and propagated in the insectaries of the Coconut Research Institute. And after the clearance from the quarantine department, these were introduced into identified field sites, and the end result was there was a 400% increase in the yield, and this had a lot of benefits. This shows this insect and the oil palm fruit. So the plantation sector, they stopped using manual pollinators. That was the method that they have been using in the past. People used to climb trees, it seems, to pollinate it manually. And this, because of this insect introduction, pollination was done by the insect much more efficiently than the manual pollinators. So the palm oil production rapidly increased and the industry prospered. And it was expanded, the cultivation was expanded to many estates. And there was a lot of investments that poured in as a result. However, more recently, there were reports that this expansion of the palm oil industry was stopped, and that is a different story though. Before I end, I would like to thank Dr. Ranjit Mahindapala, former director, Coconut Research Institute, who shared a lot of knowledge and his expertise, which enabled picking up of this information, and also Dilani, who shared information which provided a lot of the contents. Thank you for listening, and I wish Rizvi and the group success in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Over to you, Professor Buldenia.
Thank you very much, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, Chairman, National Science Foundation, Professor Nadira Karnavira, our research chair, and also Mr. Rizvi Said, Chairman of the Agriculture Working Group, who is bringing this webinar to life. I decided not to present any more statistics to you, because I'm addressing an audience, people who are waiting to find solutions to their problems. That is what I believe that this webinar is meant to deliver to society. Society means we are addressing today a large group of commercially driven people, business people. And I know what business people expect. The business people expect what can they get from us, if I put us as the universities and the research community, from the work we have done to add value to the economic sectors of our country. Agriculture being one sector that you can see today, agriculture sector occupies below 8% of the national GDP. It has come down from about 40–50% that was there earlier to about below 8%, which means that we have not kept pace in competing with the other sectors like the service sector and the industry sector in elevating the value contribution, the wealth creation in the agriculture sector. So as a result, we find it extremely difficult moving from the primary level production that we are having in our agriculture sector to a high value added sector. So our primary question in the agriculture sector is value addition to the national agricultural resources in our country. I like to find out at the end of this webinar from the industry participants, what do you really want from us? Do you really want us, or can you work without us? If you want us, then tell us what you really need to be done by us so that your companies can prosper, your companies can create wealth. And as Professor Ranjit Senaratne mentioned at the very outset, you know, he and the National Science Foundation is quite well prepared now to adapt to the public-private partnership formula that we all know that works very well in other countries, and in Sri Lanka, we want to move in that direction, working with you as in partnership to develop the agriculture. If I go back in my experience, I don't want to take much time telling you all the things that I want to talk in terms of our experience, but I think Professor Nadira has explained a lot of the things that from a research point of view. From a development point of view, I want to take about the experience, practical experience I have gained from about 25 years back in Sri Lanka in working with agricultural clusters. Now, a cluster is actually partly the business people, partly the people who produce, people who, the marketers, and, all the value-adding people, and then, who really export this produce in the world markets. And, these clusters of agricultural produce or commodities or whatever that you can call it, they have immense problems. And we identified 3 clusters. One cluster was the agriculture, the cashew cluster. Then we identified the organic cluster. And then we also identified the cinnamon cluster. Now, all these 3 clusters have great potential to add value to the economy. And these clusters had problems. Even 25 years back, we had enormous problems. Those problems are still prevailing in our those clusters. The problems about diseases, problems about increasing the biomass value, then also problems about increasing the yield. I think, all these problems are still there. And Professor Ranjit Senaratne recently concluded big research involving 5 different groups on value addition to cinnamon. But from that research, taking the product to the world market, now there's great knowledge. There's nothing being done. So I think, we really need to get the commercial end connected to the National Science Foundation being the apex to deliver that value to the national economy, to also help the commercial business community in our country to create wealth in the economy. And I'm not, most people are reluctant to talk about profits, but I'm talking about profit. If you don't make profit, you will not be in business, and you really need to make profits from our ideas. So you make profits. I will give you the support from the technology development arm, and also you tell us your problems to really help you with the knowledge that we have, wealth of knowledge that we have in the university sector and the research sector, and the National Science Foundation as the apex body. It has the great network that is capable of really helping the business community. So by the end of this workshop, I would like to know at least 3 major problems from the business community that we can really help you with, and we will formulate programs so that you can really get value. But I know that individual companies will not talk about their, the critical opportunities that they have in the market. Come to us individually. Every company come to us. We will give you support so that your company can make profits in the industry, in the market, and create wealth. And we have, those days people were scared in the government sector to help the private sector, thinking that the Auditor General might have questions about doing such things. But the point is, in this mindset, the change of mindset, the public-private partnership mindset, I think all that has changed, and we are ready to help you individually, collectively, and even chambers. We can help you as a collective operation in your efforts to add value to agriculture and bring wealth into the country. So I wish you good luck, and also thank you very much, Rizvi, for organizing and bringing the business community into this webinar. And also thank you, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, for the compliments you paid me. I'm very much here to support the business community to create wealth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, the next speaker is Mr. Rizvi Saeed, member of the research arm and lead person, Steering Committee on Agriculture for Research and Development, NSF, and the chairman of the Sri Lankan Agripreneur Forum. Sir, over to you to talk about the priority research areas in agriculture and livestock sectors and overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dilani. Let me very quickly run through an overview of the priority R&D areas in the agriculture sector in Sri Lanka. Let me at the outset thank the chairman of the NSF, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, chairman of the research arm and the technology development arms of the NSF, respected scientists, researchers, and my colleagues and friends in industry for joining this webinar today, which is an important one and a new initiative, as Chairman Professor Ranjit has elaborated, in bringing the role of the NSF to give leadership to research and development, and also this priority area of the agriculture sector. So my task in the next 10 minutes is very quickly provided an overview of priority areas that are required in the agriculture and livestock sectors in Sri Lanka. In the interest of time, let me very quickly run through this is an area that has been covered, so I won't spend too much of time. As we all agree, agriculture is the cornerstone of the Sri Lankan economy, despite all the attempts to move away from agriculture over the last 3 decades. Agriculture occupies center stage, and one of the important issues with agriculture is that it has literally stuck in the mud for various reasons, and therefore the role of the research and development initiatives of the country, particularly the scientific community, is very central to not only provide leadership to the agricultural sector, but also to contribute to the economic development of our country. Now, where agriculture is concerned, there are some very salient aspects that we need to address, and that is that Sri Lanka is still transforming from a very subsistence model of agriculture to commercial agriculture. And one of the reasons, as Professor Nadira outlined in the example of paddy, is that the role of research and development really helped to transform our paddy sector, to make us very self-sufficient in paddy. But sadly, this has not happened across many other realms of agriculture, and therefore there is a huge role for research and development to work in partnership, that is the partnership between the scientific community, the academic community, as well as the private sector, to hasten and transform the commercialization of agriculture. It is happening, but it is not adequately enough. So the objective of this seminar and this webinar is to look at how the economic returns for the country via some priority areas of product development, and also bridging the gaps in terms of market needs for products, the market needs for value addition, the market needs from an environmental point of view in terms of food.
Sir,
Yes.
Very sorry to disturb you. Can you share the slides? PowerPoint is not activated.
Just a minute, please.
We can see the first slide.
Yes, and sir, you have
PowerPoint
to the presentation
mode
and move the slides at the bottom of the bar, sir. You are close to.
Sorry about
now.
that.
Okay, sir. Now, okay, sir.
Is it okay now?
Still,
yes,
you are not
okay.
in the presentation mode, sir.
Full screen, please. Full screen.
Is it okay now?
Still not in the presentation mode. Can I share it, sir? Is that okay?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, and please get into the agriculture new heights.
Sir, first you have to stop sharing if allowing Dilani to share the screen.
Done. So can we go to slide number 3? Yes, so as I was saying, the second bullet on this slide is the economic returns to the country via product development, via the bridging of the gaps, and this is very important, and this is something that can only be done by industry coming together with the scientific and the research and development community in Sri Lanka. And for this, there has to be some interventions. Now, one of these new heights that we are looking for from a societal point of view, from a country point of view, is enriching and empowering both farmers and agripreneurs. And this is, I think, an important objective that the whole aspect of research and development is trying to achieve. There is, of course, as we say already, the widespread use of agri-tech, and this has to be supported with a lot of R&D work, as well as Sri Lanka has got biodiversity, it has got many aspects of sustainability ingrained into our way of working, and this can be brought to advantage. And another important factor that is really pervading the whole agriculture realm is the convergence of technologies. We have nanotechnology, biotechnology, there is the slim tech, as well as now there is the slim tech. There is the IT, there are the ICTAs coming in full force into a lot of work into the ag space, food science led by ITI and others, and also the universities, including the traditional universities that were focused a lot on technologies like the University of Moratuwa, looking at chemical and process engineering in the food and agriculture realm. And of course, like what Professor Ranjit Senratne said, this whole research and development in a very interesting, innovative way is being led by the NSF, and this is something that augurs very well. Of course, where opportunities are concerned, as people in industry, we all know that there are huge opportunities out there, both in the global market as well as in the domestic market. Fueled globally, of course, by the increase in population, as Professor Nadira alluded to, the global population at 7.8 billion is very quickly going to go to 9 billion and beyond. Sri Lanka is no exception. Also, the COVID pandemic is providing huge opportunities for immunity boosting foods, and also the disruptions in the local and global agri-value chains, the supply chains, the food supply chains, the demand for food, etc. We're going to talk about that in the next presentation with Professor Janaki in terms of food safety and food security. And of course, important opportunities are there, as all of us in industry know. We are all focusing on the markets globally in the wellness and safe food areas. And of course, all of this is very well and nicely overarched into the national policy framework of our country. The current government, as well as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, all are well linked into what we are trying to do into exploiting the opportunities. And importantly, where industry is concerned, there is a huge, as my colleagues in industry who are present here will bear with me, or will bear out with me, is that there's an increased interest in investment in agribusiness and agriculture, and this is very good. Next slide, please. So I would like to talk about, in broad sweep terms, these are areas where those of us in industry who have also been working in some ways with the scientific community is trying to find market development, product development, filling the gaps for some of these opportunities that are listed here. I won't go through them in detail in the interest of time, but there is a lot of activity already happening in these areas. For example, as Professor Nadira spoke about, in terms of rice area, we are very well equipped with the high yielding varieties. We have achieved self-sufficiency, and not only that, because of this fragrant rice, the work that has been done in the research area, Sri Lanka is poised to really develop our own varieties of the so-called basmatis, or the fragrant rice with special attributes, and the specialty rice There are many varieties that have been done, led by of course, the Department of Agriculture, and private sector companies like CIC and others have taken the lead, and others are doing a lot of research, and more research needs to be done to look at this opportunity for specialty rice, which can really transform not only this agricultural landscape, but also the income earning ability of our farming and our agricultural communities. Of course, the other areas which are very much aggressive is the Ayurveda area, herbs and spices driven by wellness and nutraceutical demand globally. Fruits and vegetables, there is huge market for dehydrated fruits and vegetables. We talk about that in a while. Even in dairy products, for fresh and value-added dairy products, the various yogurts, the various nutritional value-added products, we see a lot of products like the paneer. The local companies are doing a lot of work, but there are still a lot of research needs. There are a lot of technology needs in terms of the dairy sector. Fisheries and aquatic products also has a lot of interest, but we won't catch that in this seminar. The wild catch and farm fishing has lots of opportunities, which has to be met by research and technology development. In terms of the superfoods, we have done amazingly well in harnessing value chains for moringa, and it is now becoming a commercial crop. There are enormous opportunities for other crops that Sri Lanka is famous for, like the jackfruit, virgin coconut oil, which is spoken of, and also mushrooms, which can easily be tweaked with a lot of R&D work and take products to the global markets, apart from providing Sri Lankans also with high nutritious foods that will provide enormous advantages to Sri Lanka and its people. Then, of course, an interesting opportunity area is the plant-based meat substitutes, and there's a lot of opportunities available. I'll talk about that in my next slides. And also there's a lot of amazing work done with salads and lettuces and greenhouse crops already. This is an area that will be showcased as we go on. There are companies like Honest Greens, a few others who have done a lot of work in promoting greenhouse cultivation of some of these greenhouse crops, for example. Then, of course, because of government policy, there's a huge demand for local import substitution crops like the big onion, dry chilies, potato, the beans, cowpea, udu, which needs a lot of R&D support in order to up the scale so that we achieve self-sufficiency and provide nutritious food for our people. And another important opportunity is that there is a lot of support for the food and beverage exports from the work of the Export Development Board. A lot of startups have come up. SMEs are linking into larger companies, but still there is a huge gap. And this is what this seminar will try to elucidate. As Professor Chandra said, we want to hear the specific needs of industry as well. Important opportunity available in Sri Lanka is that we have a strong pool of agripreneurs. And I am happy to say that as chairman of the Sri Lanka Agripreneurs Forum, we have about 250 agri-entrepreneurs who are really street smart, who are using all types of technology, some of them coming from traditional agriculture, but a lot of them coming from other related disciplines, who are providing agricultural entrepreneurship. And also our important scientific mind. Sri Lanka has an amazing scientific base that has to be leveraged, that has to be focused. And as Professor Nadira also said, we have to provide some interesting models by which we can leverage all these strengths for the benefit of agriculture. And of course, the important thing is going natural and organic, safe and wholesome food. And that will be what Professor Janaki Gunaratna will cover in the next presentation. Next slide, please. So in terms of the research priorities, we know that there is a whole scope of areas that research and development has to cover where agriculture is concerned. But for various reasons, we have a funding problem. We need the appetite of industry to come in and work with specific projects, even one-on-one, as Professor Chandra Anguldeni has said. I know we all in industry, we don't want to show what is our well-researched, if you want to call it, secrets in terms of a lot of investment we put in scouting the market, and then we develop a product, and we don't want everybody to know. We would like to develop it in a relationship that will be secure, and also in case there is IP, that certainly is an advantage. So in terms of research, we would like to hone in, as articulated by the NSF formal documents, in terms of research priorities. And one of these research priority areas is, of course, organic agriculture. You know, in organic agriculture, there are so many areas. I've highlighted the three here, which is the agrochemicals, the chemical agrochemicals. We need to look quickly for alternative organic products, insect and pest repellents through natural products. And this hypothesis is being tested. Already a lot of products are coming out to the market. And the current ban on chemical agro inputs is providing the impetus to speed up the research in the area. The other one is with regard to soil health. A lot of research has to be done, and safe plant nutrition in terms of organic manure, organic crop nutrition products, as well as other natural inputs. So these are some of the need areas from the industry point of view, which my colleagues in the industry, we are debating this all the time. We'd like to present this to the scientific community to come up with very viable, economically workable solutions. Maybe we can articulate this during the Q&A. Poultry and dairy, I won't take a lot of time, but here again is an area where there's a lot of R&D that is required to support the local poultry and dairy sectors. Feed and animal nutrition is a key area in order to achieve the particular types of yields that we want. We need to look at how research and development can be done to improve the breeds and also the processing technologies into value-added milk-based and poultry products. Next, please. This next slide is really can be considered the heart of our opportunities or research priorities. Next slide, please. And this is something that's going to be covered in detail by Professor Janaki in the next presentation, but for purpose of completeness, I'd like to cover this very quickly. Food security and food safety. This is an area where all of us have to be concerned. Industry also is looking at this area because when we export products to global markets, when we develop value-added crops, even for the local market as responsible industry players, we want to make sure that the products we market are safe and that they are secure. And also we need to be able to produce the foods apart from the rice, which is now in good supply. We need to produce vegetables that are safe, that don't have residues, that we have a lot of value addition taking place as well in terms of the processing, and a lot of research is required in this area. I have listed several other areas which come under the ambit of the NSF's research priorities, including cost-effective storage. We are looking at cooling systems as well. That has a lot of potential for research. Then, of course, in terms of the optimization of land, the supply chain resiliency, there are a lot of disruptions, a lot of research has to be done and can be done. A lot of people are doing the research. Industry needs to articulate now in very concrete terms, and this is what we'll take up in the discussion. What are specific areas in each of these broad sweep areas that need to be addressed? And of course, the final point in this slide is the human-wildlife conflict, which is causing not only loss to human life, but enormous crop losses apart from the elephants, which are the big problem. There are other, like the peacock and the various other pests that are called monkeys, for example, that are causing huge impacts for which we need research and a scientific response to some of these areas. Next, please. I'll capture this very quickly as an example of the needs of industry. I'm sure my colleagues in the industry will articulate this in detail, but from communicating this to the scientific community, all of these broad areas listed on this slide for high-tech value addition is a crying need in terms of once the industry identifies the opportunities in the local market or in the global market, a whole series of work has to be done. The product development, the process development, quality standards, packaging, branding, so on and so forth, sustainable value chain development, continuous R&D, because we have to keep improving the products that we produce, and also the high potential that is there for use of food engineering and related disciplines. Next slide, please. I'd like to showcase very quickly. Next slide. I'd like to showcase very quickly two examples for food value addition, which is the industry. I'm sure my colleagues in industry will agree with this. There is a lot of work that can be done with some specific products. And I've taken two here, and one is the example of value addition, because from the market and from industry, we start with the market. And today, unless you grow to a market and you develop everything from the point of view of the market, it is not sustainable. And this example is that of the pineapple. And Sri Lanka has got a huge potential to develop this. The global market for pineapple is $15 billion US. And here, the research and development response are in the agronomy part, the growing, the planting materials. Sri Lanka had a huge problem with planting materials. We lost a lot of mileage there in the processing, the dehydration. preservation, the extraction, the enzymes that are required, and the use of organic pineapple residues as fertilizers, as well as packaging of pineapple in glass and plastics and food grade. The other example in value addition, very quickly, is the jack, and this is something which research industry has done a lot of work. The next slide will show that the jackfruit needs to be developed. It's a huge global opportunity because the market is estimated, global market, at $36 billion US, with a CAGR in excess of 10%, because the whole world has gone to plant-based meat substitutes. There's a huge potential if you can grow the jackfruit commercially, if you can do the processing, if you can do the various necessary research and R&D to come up with a product. As you see in this slide, McDonald's and Burger King and Subway they're looking at it aggressively to find these plant-based substitutes for meat, because that's a trend that is coming up. So huge opportunities available in this area, as well as in the case of jackfruit. The ingredients that can be extracted from jackfruit, for example, allulose, as a sugar alternatives, as a healthy sweetener, apart from the new crops that are coming like stevia, etc. These are huge opportunities. Next slide. So I'd like to wind up now by saying that the work done by industry and the work done by the scientific community, if it comes together and we are able to identify, as Professor Chandra Ambuldani has said, some key priority areas, 3 to 5, at the end of this seminar, and we follow the example of the famous poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, which is nothing but work hard. And I'm sure our scientists, our industry champions are all working hard. And if we come in a synergistic way, and this forum is ideal to do that, we can achieve miracles. We can achieve greatness not only for industry and for our scientists, but for our country as well. So as Percy Bysshe Shelley says, the heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. So I'm sure a lot of us are hardworking people, and at the end of this seminar, at the end of this webinar, we will come up with a result that we can collectively work towards to achieve success for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. The next presentation, the final presentation before our brainstorming and discussion, is to be done by Dr. Janaki Gunaratne, Member of Technology Development Arm and former Head and Deputy Director, Food Technology at Industrial Technology Institute. Dr. Janaki Gunaratne, over to you, please.
Hello, thank you, Dilani. Can I have the, yeah, okay, full screen. Chairman of NSF, Professor Ratna, Chairman of the R&D and Technology Arm, Dr. Rizvi, Industries, and scientists here. Good morning, and as I will go on to the topic right away, food security is multidimensional in nature, and let's look at the standing of our global indicators. As you see, we are the 73rd among 113 countries. We were 66 about 2 years ago, and we've dropped. Food availability, we are at rank of 76, food affordability at rank of 67, food quality at the rank of 85, and nature, resource, and resilience at 64. We are not doing very well because it's very well identified that our weakness is the volatility of the agriculture production. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's move on to food security, and let me look at it from terms of organic agriculture and the new challenges we are to face. The demand for food will increase with increase in population, but the question is, with organic agriculture, can we meet the requirements of the people? And if you look at the food balance sheet, so far our requirements of calories, kilocalories, is 3,002 per day per person, protein 79, and fat 65 per day per person. Now, in organic agriculture, it is very well documented that we cannot, we have to project 50% more to get the outcome of the basic food requirements. And this remains questionable how it is going to be done. Then the demand and distribution for food produce among the food industry and consumer. The consumer, as I said, the consumer may not get the right amount of food now with the introduction of organic agriculture unless we really improve on the yields. And then are we going to compete with the food industry? Thirdly is the undernutrition in our country, which cannot be explained by food availability. Hence, we have to address the disparities through new paradigms in agriculture, food supply chains. To give you an example, Sri Lanka has a triple burden of malnutrition. Children under 5 years of age, undernutrition is 20% for the last 10 years. Stunting, that is, we don't have the height for the age, 15% for the last 20 years. Wasting, we don't have the weight as well as the height, 15% for the last 40 years. So, well, this is the true picture. And then we are deficient in iron and calcium. 30% of our pregnant mothers do not have adequate iron. Talking about the third burden on malnutrition is obesity, where we are, 41% of the women between age of 30 to 39 are obese, and 52% of the women population between 40 to 49 are obese. These are just simple examples. These are absolute malnutrition. What I'm talking about, how do we explain this? How do we get the right kind of the nutritional diet that is potentially affordable for the households? And how do we talk in terms of diet diversity? If I talk in terms of diet diversity, the per person, we have to consume, according to WHO, 400 grams of fruits and vegetables. What are we consuming today? Only 230 grams of fruits and vegetables. So these are the kind of problems we have to address. These are not new, but we have to look at new challenges. Then talking in terms of, organic produce, if you go to the market, you get the certified organic material, and then you get the other conventional produce. But now if you go to the market, we get the certified and the non-certified organic produce. The certified organic produce definitely has an export market, but what do we do with the non-certified organic produce? How much do we know about it? So we have a challenge there. Then change in food labels. Ladies and gentlemen, with organic agriculture, there will be a change in the quality of the food that comes in. The vitamin C will increase, the polyphenols will increase, but according to literature, the protein quality improves, but the protein quantity decreases. Now, how do we address these problems? So we may have to reanalyze the nutrients. Certainly, we are not going to ask the industry to change their labels because we switched to organic agriculture. We have to look at it differently. So we have many challenges ahead. Then if you look at the mitigation effects of climate change, if we have a well-managed organic agriculture, I'm sure we can contribute to the resilience of the food supply. So with that and the water use efficiency, I need not comment on it. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Asela, next slide, please.
Okay, I'm no agriculturist, but I studied in an agricultural university. So I'm very close to agriculture because I talk with them. This slide has interested me about the new agriculture technology in modern farming used in India. And
the connection is a bit slow. Have to be patient.
Sorry. So here in the new agriculture technology, my interest here goes on to precision agriculture and blockchain. When you talk about blockchain agriculture, we're going to bring in transparency in the supply food chain. And this is a real-time data-driven agricultural scenario. And we will remove all the intermediates, delayed payments, and I don't know how industry will look at it, but I think it's worth, thinking about it. Next slide, please. Yes, this is again which came up from our college days, the college WhatsApp, and this is the application of NSP. It's a nano product, nano silicate platelets, which they are now working on. It's organically certified. It can substitute as a pesticide for agriculture, and also it promotes plant growth and soil restructuring. So reduces the fertilizer requirements, and in terms of post-harvest technology, it sort of captures the microorganisms. So there are a lot of applications. I don't know whether in Sri Lanka also we can come up with this type of new thinking, but it's worth a try. Next slide, please. Okay, this is my last slide. It's on food safety, and I feel very comfortable. It is my area, and I'm very thankful to Professor Senaratna, our chairman, who's really going to really, set the food standards, help to set the food standards for Sri Lanka. So let us look at the key issues. There is no difference in the heavy metal content in organic and conventional farm produce. But if I tell you in a different way, if we were using fertilizer with heavy metals that came in with the fertilizer, then of course we would find a difference. But we have to keep remembering that cadmium and lead are issues in our country. If you look at the plants, if you examine the soils, so we have to look at it carefully. Then the emerging microorganisms, introducing of animal manure in the compost, correct digestion time, correct temperature, all that matters. And this is the area that we have to closely look so that we have homogeneity in the type of compost that is going to be added to the fields, because if not, we will end up with issues of salmonella, E. coli, listeria, and it has been, a number of other foodborne diseases. I remember when we take food safety lectures with the hotels, we always tell them, don't let the gardener in because he'll bring in the kitchen, because don't give him a cup of tea in the kitchen because you will bring in the salmonella. But now it's going to apply to the entire country, and it really worries because we have to be concerned about the emerging microorganisms. And if we do the correct composting, we are fine. The third point is on mycotoxins, and I know the big concern about the aflatoxins. If you look at the poor copra production, I think the latest I got from Coconut Research Institute that some of the coconut oil contained as high as 81 parts per million of aflatoxin. So it is the correct improved drying and storage techniques that we have to adapt for maize and chilies and so on, because to avoid this, and the correct drying time initially, immediately after harvesting. So these are technologically we can make these changes. So we have to, bring these changes about. The next one is on the cooking oils. When we talk of cooking oils, we are also talking about the aflatoxin, but far more I wish to bring to you about the two carcinogenic compounds. The two carcinogenic compounds, the 3 NCPD esters, which are also known as 3-monochloropropanol 2-diol, and the glycidyl esters GE. Now they are classified as group 2B carcinogen and group 2A carcinogen, and it is found mainly in palm oil. So palm oil refining has to be improved. The question is whether we are using the same type of refining process for coconut oil, in which case we have to look at these carcinogenic compounds. What really happens is these carcinogenic compounds, when it gets into a human system, it turns into a free form as glycidols in the GI tract, and then induce tumors. So this is brought about in the Amsterdam Declaration in 2015. This was highlighted, and ever since palm oil growing persons, Malaysia and other countries and Indonesia are taking concern about the sustainability, because what really happens if the plant contains, the fruit contains the high amount of chlorine, or during the deodorizing and refining process, which we have to improve. If you go into high temperatures above 200, right now we are going up to 230 degrees centigrade, these two compounds can be formed. So of course the chlorine has to be present, so we don't know about the coconut oil. Only palm oil is and sunflower oil and yes, canola is also getting discussed. So these are issues which are entering our food chain. So we have to be careful when, like importing palm oil, you have to get it from a sustainable, we have to get it from a sustainable farm as described by the Amsterdam Declaration in 2015, as I said. Then talk about microplastics. I really don't have to elaborate, because microplastics less than 5 millimeters is found in around the sea, in the fish and salt, and we are going to quantify them, and probably we'll have some good data on that. And lastly, the pesticides. I have to tell you that we are finding some toxic compounds in the organic tea, the assays have shown, and then we have to be careful with that. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Gunaratne, for that very informative presentation. Before going on to the brainstorming session, the engineer Mahesh Disanayaka, the head of the research division, will very, very briefly tell about the current interest of the current research interest of the NSF and the role of NSF in research funding. His presentation is very brief because due to the time constraints and the tight schedule. Over to you, Mr. Disanayaka.
Thank you, Mr. Dilani. Please give me permission to share my screen.
You can share, Mr. Disanayaka.
Can you see my presentation?
Not yet.
Yes, I think it's coming. It's on the screen. Now you can go to the presentation mode and do the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Chairman NSF, Chairpersons Research and Technology Development Arm, and Mr. Rishwi and other distinguished invitees, guests, staffs. Welcome to this presentation. So I will briefly explain role of NSF and current R&D interest of NSF with this time constraint. So if you see I am sure that you all aware about the NSF. NSF is a national level institute in the country, and this is not a research institute, and this is a institute kind of a research management institute, or a institute where facilitate to researchers in the country. If you see our mandate, so it says that to serve and strengthen the science and technology sector in Sri Lanka. So it means that we facilitate to the science and technology sector in the country, and the institute will be governed by Technology Development Act. And we have 5 mandated functions. Under that, 3 mandated functions are directly related to the R&D functions. So under R&D, so we will facilitate research and development and innovation to create a knowledge economy, and also we facilitate capacity building, that is the human resource development of our scientific people, and then we do facilitate infrastructure development, that is also facilitate to our scientists and also technology transfer, knowledge creation, and all these things we do with the view to improve the quality of life of the people. So that is our ultimate objective. So if you see briefly that one. First one is to support basic and applied research. So we have a different kind of grant schemes and programs, funding schemes and programs. For example, a competitive research grant and some international collaborative research program, national thematic research program, COVID grant. Recently we have introduced that one to this pandemic situation. So this type of grant schemes are available to help our scientists to their research. So, and then we have.
Mr. Mahesh, sorry
yes.
to disturb you. Your slides are not moving.
Here it is moving. Now it's okay.
But we can't see. We can only see the title slide, Webinar on Research and Development Needs of the Agriculture Sector.
Then we will share from this your side.
Okay. Okay. Can I share from my side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reach එකේ හරියහම ලාචු දෙක නෙමේ යටම තට්ටුවේ අර CIC curd round
Mr. Disanayaka, can you see?
No, it's still not in the screen.
Dilani, we can't see anything. We cannot.
You cannot see?
No. Nothing. We cannot see anything. Now it's okay. Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So to promote and enhance the capacity building, so we have postgraduate research scholarships and also postdoctoral research fellowship programs. So this is kind of a human resource development in the R&D sector. And also we support to infrastructure development. So we have grants like research equipment grants and also spare parts for research equipment grants. So those are for infrastructure development in laboratories in the relevant institution. Next slide, please. And also, this is also very important one, to do the recognition of science and technology personnel. So under this one, we will recognize the excellence of those who are doing research and also those who are helping to the research. So we have NSF Research Awards for NSF grant recipient, and also we have a support scheme for supervision of research degree award. So we have annual calendar, this program to recognize and admire, to recognize the appreciation and admiration of the scientists involved in research. So that will encourage and promote their work. And also we are, as a division, we are doing some special project also, FAO biosafety project, and also research program on health sciences. So some programs we are conducting at present. Next slide, please. So as a summary, we can say that as a role of NSF or our capacity or our capability, we do support basic and applied research through grant, through giving the funds to our scientists. We promote and enhance capacity building of our scientists through research grants. And also we support for infrastructure development of the laboratories of our scientists through our grant scheme. And also we do recognition of science and technology personnel in the R&D sector in the country to encourage and promote them to doing well in science and technology sector. So this is a summary. And if you see this last 10 years, our allocation to the research and development sector, especially research sector, we have almost half or one-third total capital expenditure we have allocated to research sector. And what we hope under now research interest that, because even though we invest some little money when compared to other, for example, 100 million or 140 million like that, but we expect to have some collaborative research so that we can double this one. So if we have some collaborative research, we can do collaborative means some industry collaboration, maybe some international collaboration, so that we can double this one. So if we have a 50% from NSF side or 50% from other collaborative side, so we can double this investment to the research and development sector. So that's what we are thinking at now. Please go ahead. And as our chairman said, we have some research arms and technology development arm. The research arm has identified 9 priority areas to do research in near future. So one is the agriculture and livestock sector, then fisheries and aquaculture, information technology and services, medicinal and diagnostic, engineering products and services, water, environment, and energy. So today we have a webinar on agriculture and livestock. Mr. Rizvi Zahid, our lead in that sector, have explained very well what is our research interest on that area. So I will just move from that side to our next slide. So I'm not going to explain again what is that areas. Please move. Again. Yeah, so as a NSF, what is our today's interest? We know that one, if you give some funds to our scientific staff or scientific community under computer research grant schemes, so they do research their own interest, because we all have some our interest on research areas. But what NSF thinks, we need to do the research on behalf of country. What is the needs of the country? Because when we identified our research priority areas, we have to think about the national policy framework, what we call the SPS, and also what are the research we need to do for the improvement of the industry. So that's what we have explained earlier. And we need some collaborative research and also mission-oriented multidisciplinary collaborative research. So we have to have a target-oriented one and multidisciplinary. If we have only teamwork, we can do this one, have a good output or outcome that will help to the national development. And also we promote collaboration with private sector people, so private public-private partnership PP programs, because we know that one rather than state private sector more mission-oriented, target-oriented, and they are thinking about return on investment. So they will more focus on what they require to the research. So it's not kind of wrong in our researchers. It is if we have well-defined outputs, so we will outcomes, we will target that one, and we try to achieve that one with the help of private sector. So our interest is to do more research on commission research on mission-oriented ones with the private-public partnership. So that is what our current R&D interest in research R&D interest in NSF. So with that, I thank you very much for you all and thinking way towards healthy and happy nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. And now we move on to our brainstorming session. The moderator for this session is Mr. Rizvi Said. Sir, before handing over to you, I would like to remind our participants, we have about 130 participants today for this meeting, that they can raise their hands if they want to ask questions, or they can post their questions in the chat box. Before directing your question to our moderator, can you please introduce yourselves? The NSF staff will unmute you once you raise your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dilani. So now the floor is open. In the interest of time, as mentioned by Dilani, we are entertaining comments and questions both by show of the hands as well as comments in the chat box. Already it's quite healthy to see a lot of industry representatives making comments and adding value to the identification of needs in the chat box. But before we look through some of those, is there anybody who would like to go first? Yes, Mr. Sujeevan Rajendran. Can Mr. Sujeevan Rajendran be unmuted? And after that, Mr. Subudhu Gunasekara. Asela, can you unmute Mr. Rajendran first and then Mr. Gunasekara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Zahid, for the opportunity. So actually, I have several comments on this one. So actually, the NSF said they are providing grants on competitive basis, and engineered. Mr. Varnasurya said the researchers should be in the country's interest, right? So I see the NSF is granting the posts or the grants are just focusing on agriculture or major sectors. So why can't you just advertise them on the focused area, right? We need to do this research, and if you have any ideas, you can apply like that. Why can't they do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sujeevan. That will be the objective going forward as well. Yeah. But in view of the new scheme of things within NSCF ambit, we want to hear industry needs in specific areas. But your suggestion is a valid one, and that certainly will be taken into consideration in terms of articulating that once we have all the information in. Thank you for those comments.
I have a few more. Is it okay if I ask now?
Yes, one more. Yes, go ahead.
Actually, I have a few more. So how about the researchers going on in the universities? So I see many master's students, researchers doing, some kind of random work. So they do just research for their interest, not the country's interest. So what body in the Sri Lankan government or NSF is collaborating or monitoring those things? Do we have those kind of facilities?
Yes, that is something that is being addressed to get research as well as the development work into a holistic paradigm. And I agree that people have been tending to work in silos, but increasingly there is a lot of marriage between the market-driven needs of the agriculture sector and what the amazing scientific community can do. We have seen examples of that already showcased in the presentations of what the scientific and academic community can do in terms of providing solutions to the needs. It's just that they have to come together, and this forum as a continuing initiative will try to do exactly what you are suggesting, Ms. Sanjeev. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have one more, the last one. Okay, I'm so sorry about it. So last one is the Sri Lankan government has changed the policy to organic farming, right? So as Dr. Gunathilak mentioned, the organic agriculture we are not prepared for it, right? So actually my background is on agriculture and my focus is gene editing and plant breeding. So I think I can comment on this one. So basically organic, our plants, we have the traditional varieties and improved varieties adapted to inorganic agriculture, right? So in the background, we are selecting the plants which are adapted to inorganic farming. So if you suddenly change the fertilizer to organic ones, so like she mentioned, the protein content is low and nutrition content, you have many problems, right? So how about the preparation for the government policies to answer this question?
You are raising a very valid question, and one that has been raised ever since the announcement was made on the ban of chemical fertilizers and crop protection products. This has been continuously being addressed. Some accommodation was made in view of the representations made by industry, but you are absolutely right in terms of the most planting materials adapted to use of chemical-based plant nutrition and crop protection products, and this is something that NSF also is addressing. Perhaps NSF Chairman, Professor Ranjit, can add a quick comment in response to this question, which is very relevant and real.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, actually, it's a very important and relevant question. We are trying to evolve a program to address this, but I think we will take it up in detail to separate forum, and we are going to have a separate discussion on organic farming that we like to discuss in detail about the proposed intervention in this regard. Thanks.
Thanks, Ranjit. Thank you very much. There is a question or comment in the chat box from a very successful agri-entrepreneur, Mr. Chandana Deepal, who is articulating a priority need area for research, and this is something that's echoed across industry as well. And this is in the area of plant and animal breeding and the seed planting material management in Sri Lanka. And there's a growing demand for some high quality agri products and value-added products. Deepal, would you like to very quickly comment on specific crops that you can bring in so we can add this into our priority list? Deepal, you'd like to quickly verbalize that or even mention it in the chat box? Some examples of the crops.
Yeah, basically there are a lot of crops we can address. If you take avocado, and there is a growing demand for avocado and vanilla. So both actually we have not exploited it. And also there are a lot of other agri crops and also livestock also. In livestock, there are a lot of breeds are inbreed now in Sri Lanka. We have our own livestock breeding center in Sri Lanka, one of the leading breeding center and the research center for university students, also Chudido Group of Company. And we have partnership with Spanish company for animal breeding. Like that, national as a country, we should encourage private sector entrepreneurs to get into this field. So there are a lot of intellectual property issues and all lot of issues faced by the investors. But other countries like Vietnam and other countries, they have removed all the red tapes and encourage private sector entrepreneurs to get into this field and invest a lot. So we need to seriously address this issue, Rishi.
Thank you, Deepal. Those insights are valuable. Just to mention to all participants and those who are contributing to this discussion that all your comments, whether verbal or in the chat box, are recorded, and that we will put it all together, and maybe at the end of the session also try to zone in on 3 or 4 priority areas. But in any case, this will be used as material for further action and work going forward. Also, there was a comment from Engineer Parakrama Jayasinghe in terms of funding. Para, you'd like to very quickly articulate that?
Okay, thank you, Rishi. Basically, we have been talking about the lack of funding for years and years. That is not going to change. Therefore, what little we have has to be focused exactly on what we need. Now, I don't say, although Professor mentioned a couple of projects we are successful, I don't know whether we have many more like that one which we can be proud of. Therefore, from now onwards, I think once the industry indicates what the areas of research are needed, all research must be focused on those things. And also something I always like to mention is NSC's National Science Foundation. Although Mr. Gamini mentioned science and technology, I see we are very much of a dearth in the technological part of it. So any research that we undertake must have that element so that it can be commercialized. So that is the most important thing at this point in time, because we don't have the money. So the way some money could come in is also again from the private sector. So the PPP arrangement is an ideal thing to do. So, but you have to have that focus, saying that every project that we approve now onwards should have that focus, and also must have that element going towards the final commercialization. Again, my second question was, have you got the in-house capacity to do that one? Otherwise, what is the arrangement to get that capacity from universities or industry or whatever it is? These are very essential things. If we are move forward at the rate we need and within the means that we have, without waiting for means to come, it will not come. So within, how do we maximize our input and our impact on the country? Thank you.
Thanks for that. Professor Chandra, you'd like to, I think, respond to that question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think excellent question. That is the focus of our effort, that every research that comes into the picture and every research that gets funded by the very limited resources that we have in the country right now, which is coming through the National Science Foundation, should be targeting a value addition to the national economy. And I think the point about going in for commercializing with public-private partnerships is what Professor Ranjit Senaratne at the outset mentioned, and I'm also very much emphatic about it. And every opportunity has a PPP opportunity. So come to us and we will show you how we can do a PPP for your problem. And that is the main focus of development now. Thank you very much for that question. Excellent.
Thank you, Professor Chandra. Budania, there is Mrs. Indira Malwatha, former chairperson of the Export Development Board and also an entrepreneur in agriculture in her own right, considerable experience. She has a question. Indira, if Indira can be unmuted.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Risvi. Can I be heard?
Yes, go ahead. You can be heard. Go ahead.
Fine. No, now when you are looking at prioritizing with limited resources, the National Export Strategy has identified the food and beverage sector among the 6 sectors as a key sector, which has a timeline identified with whom we should work. All that is very clearly articulated. And on the other hand, the Fruit and Vegetable Exporters Association has identified 5 fruits and 5 vegetables, which has a export market potential. So with the limited resources we have, can we take up what has been identified? Because the National Export Strategy was a public-private document and accepted by everybody. So whether we should take something like that forward along with the NFS, because that is what the private sector has wanted in this area. Thanks.
Thank you, Indira. Those are valuable comments because there is already data available from, I believe, what the Export Development Board did, and I was also a member in one of your committees.
You are a member, yes.
A lot of exhaustive research was done, so I think that's available in the public domain, and that's something we can plug into, and I'm sure the NSF will be cognizant of that as well. Mr. Ranjit Mahintapala had also a similar comment. Ranjit, would you like to articulate that very quickly on looking at evidence-based information for prioritization? But at the same breath, I must say that a lot of the industry participants here and outside, I think Mr. Chandan and Deepal brought the example of avocado, and there are others who talk about the vanilla. I spoke about the jackfruit and the various other things, even things like the moringa as well as virgin coconut oil, mushrooms, already have been identified from an evidence base in terms of market potential. What we have to do is to come up with the required additional research, and as quite rightly commented on, the technology, as Para and Professor Chandra Abuldunia said, we have to now work on the technology. So I think we are beginning to identify, and a lot of that is articulated. Would you like to add to it, Ranjit, any additional comments to make in terms of this evidence-based research to prioritize the required agricultural products?
Thanks, Risvi. Actually, in the course of your presentation, you highlighted several high priority, high impact concerns that merit attention. I am sure what Ms. Indira Malhotra also referred to, also included in several of the initiatives you proposed. In addition, now we have actually some really burning issues with the advent of shipwreck, with the aflatoxin issue, and following the pandemic. So those issues also we need to really pay attention to. So our funds are limited, and we look for partners. We are also trying to forge partnership with international universities and research institutions and start collaborative program that might help alleviate this crisis. But after this discussion, we may hear more ideas on high priority concerns that should merit more attention. Once we really sit down, and then we'll finalize our list and try to secure funding depending on the priority areas identified in consultation with industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Ranjit. Also to echo Chairman Ranjit Senratna's comments, and that is that in the process of identifying the priority areas, what we have to look at is those that can literally be low-hanging fruit. And I think what we have to do now is to start shortlisting those areas we can focus on. And I'm sure my colleagues from industry who are here, and I know how industry also works, you would like, I'm sure, to have more kind of a one-on-one engagement in articulating specific areas of need or the pain points where you may already have embarked on some amount of evidence-based priority areas which you have identified within your organizations, whether you are an SME or whether you're a large company or you are a processor or you're a grower. So I think, I'm sure the NSF and our team is very willing to engage with you on some kind of form, whether we have an NDA so that there's non-disclosure of some information you already have. All of this is geared to synergistically finding a solution that would help to improve the technology adaptation and development of good value-added products from Sri Lanka. So I'm sure that that comment will be taken in mind. Mr. Pradeep from ICTA, you have a question. Can you please articulate your particular area of need? I'm sure you have a lot to say about AgTech area.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity and the organizing this session. Actually, there are a lot of areas discussed, but my question, actually, area I want to raise is to how you can the NSF supporting for maybe getting for especially digital technologies. As if I take 30 seconds, so we have already started AgriTech for activities. I think part of the RISI also supported us, and so how we can NSF can support for the digital deploying digital technologies, AI and those kind of things. And also burning issue is there, so that data issues. Probably if we need to have a agriculture sector related data house or data warehouse, what is the collaboration or the initiative that NSF can have for those kind of issues? So those are the areas I want to highlight here.
Thank you, Professor Pradeep. I know the ICTA is doing some amazing work in the digital area and supporting a lot of the work, and I'm sure coming together and working synergistically, as Professor Chandra Embultini always keep reminding us, that we have to break down and the silos and work cohesively, synergistically, and with single-mindedness in addressing these issues of research and development, particularly for the agriculture sector. Thank you for that input, Professor Pradeep. Yes. Yeah. Who's likely? My God, we have a large number of participants. Anybody likes to go next? Please go ahead if you had put up your hand.
Shall we have Professor Kulasurya?
Yes, Professor Kulasurya.
My question is now, for all we are discussing this seminar is on agriculture sector. That means it's based on plant production, plant growth. Shouldn't we also therefore focus ourselves on soil health and soil restoration, particularly in view of the government's decision for organic agriculture. Now, for the last 61 years since the introduction of chemical agriculture, we have been depending on inorganic fossil-based fuels products to sustain and restore soil fertility. So I think this area of sustaining and restoring soil fertility under organic agriculture now needs high priority in terms of research and development. I'm not sure whether the private sector would think of this as a priority, because they are always, I listen to all the presentations and the comments, you could clearly see the intention is to get more and more marketable products. But to get those products, you need a good productive soil. So please draw some of your attention how we can now do research and development in the context of organic agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kulasuri. Very valid points. I'm sure in fairness to industry, I must say some of the organized large-scale industrial entities, including those in the plantations, have been very quick to thinking about the soil remediation and the issues arising from. The ban on chemical fertilizers certainly has given a fillip and certainly started opening people's minds to the extent to which soil needs remediation quickly. But since the soil remediation maybe is a kind of public good, we can look at NSF looking at this. Either Professor Chandra or Chairman Ranjit, can you quickly respond on whether we can put this also into a priority area? I know funds is a big issue for us, but the soil remediation issue is one that deservedly requires attention.
No, naturally, what Professor Kulasuri brought up is very important. There is no argument on that, and my background is also related to that. So that constitutes a high priority concern. And when we prepare the agenda, sustainability will be a common thread running through all that, where the soil health constitute a very important element. So point well taken, Professor Kulasuri. Thanks.
I also want to add something to that, Rizvi. Actually, what Professor Kulasuri mentioned is absolutely very important. From the other angle, other than what Professor Ranjit mentioned as a generic problem finding a solution, but I also have a solution for the private sector who, supposing if you have a estate that really wants to regenerate its soil, then we can give a PPP solution for that. With all the technological solutions, with all the work that we can do, to very specifically targeting the area for rejuvenation. I mean, that's the capacity that we have, and we have the solution.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra. That's valuable comments, and this underscores the driving theme we want to push here, and that is public-private partnerships, particularly giving the private sector and my industry colleagues here the confidence that when we work in partnership, we can find solutions in a holistic and sustainable way. And this example of soil remediation is a good example. Thanks, Chandra, for that view. So the public-private partnership model is something we have to push in the follow-through work that we need to do once the priority areas are identified. Any other, from industry side, any other areas that you think are priority? What about in the, I think Chandana Deepal brought about the point of value added, but anybody has any particular need, any pain points when it comes to agriculture in adding value that will bring empowerment to farmers, that will help sustain a group of thriving agri-entrepreneurs which will provide the fulcrum for agricultural development in Sri Lanka, apart from, of course, the public goods that are required like the soil and the air and the environmental issues. Any specific needs from industry not addressed so far?
Mr. Rishi, actually, Dr. Chandra Moldeni highlighted that at the end of this discussion, at least we like to have, at least he said at least three projects that industry is interested in and want NSF to work hand in with them to address their concerns. So we would appreciate very much if you could really focus on high priority concerns that that should be addressed, and that you look forward to working hand with NSF in addressing those.
Thank you, Professor. Thanks, Rani. That's valuable comments. I see Haridas Fernando from CIC. He's a stalwart and veteran on the CIC agribusiness sector. Haridas, you have some comments or some specific needs you'd like to articulate?
Yeah, thank you, Ristri. Actually, I am from Cargill, not from CIC.
Sorry, it's Cargill. My apologies. My apologies.
Anyway, I just related to the question just now discussed. Actually, the soil conservation and protection of soil is one of our prime responsibility of as agri-entrepreneurs. Actually, we have been doing this. We have started a precision agriculture program with the small farmers. Maybe we are done with the 500 farmers using fertigation, minimizing the fertilizer usage by reducing the fertilizer usage by 80%. We are using only 20%. And water usage just about 40% to drip irrigation, fertigation. Only thing is, with the new development is organic. Actually, we started there the conventional agriculture model, but now with the recent shift, we are facing a serious problem of how to go back to that, because we can't go back to normal conventional agriculture. Now the farmers are already invested. So if there's any help that the NFS can support us to fast track this, so actually here we need some water soluble organic fertilizer, because you can't put normal fertilizer into this, and also the farmers are not using any herbicide. They are using plastic mulch, so that we improve the productivity, minimize the harm to the soil, and we have preserved the soil. So if we can support this area, one is the water soluble fertilizer, and the other thing zero. Now we have to go for zero pesticide. So I think that research will be very much important, and that will be a burden issue. Because from precision, we have started precision agriculture. Now under this condition, either our farmers have go back to conventional agriculture, because we went to precision agriculture to address the burning problems, our low productivity, our climate change, and our high use of fertilizer, water pollution. So we have addressed those problems. Now we are stuck with this new situation. So it will be helpful if the NFS can support this, fast track the research on finding solution to this.
Thank you, Haridas. Those are excellent suggestions with regard to water soluble organic fertilizer, and certainly this will be in our organic agriculture priority area. This will be receiving top priority, and this has already been articulated by many people, including the big companies, small companies, and you said transforming farmers, Haridas, and I'm aware that Cargill has done some amazing work, including providing leadership on getting the certification, the Sri Lanka GAP certification, and it's a laudable thing that has been done by Cargill. Thank you. Chandra, you want to comment on that?
Yes, I exactly want to go 10 steps beyond what you said just now. I'm proposing to Professor Senaratna, let's take Cargill as a PPP and to give solutions to all the land that they are covering on this, the water soluble fertigation material. I know how important it is because we have been doing that. And so basically we will take, if with permission from the National Science Foundation chairman, we will take that Rizvi as a PPP if Cargill is ready to come with us. Yes.
Yeah,
thank you very much, sir. We are very much willing to work here, sir.
Thank you, Chandra. That's excellent input. Also, what Haridas mentioned was about the pesticide-free, and this is some area also that's in priority, and NSF will give that attention. If we can have repellency, pesticide, the insect repellent, natural products, that's something that will be in the research area. It's going to be a tall order, but a lot of work has been done already globally as well, and I'm sure our researchers and the technology development side can come up with this pesticide-free crops. There are issues, as Professor Janaki said, in terms of quality and nutrition and all of that, but these are all that can be addressed.
And also one thing I want to add, the Sri Lanka, because we have gone for organic, but we have not gone into that biopest, that is good insects. So that area also, I think, because it is prohibited importing the eco-friendly pest insects. So that was another one area we have to think of, because I think Coconut Development Board long time ago they had this one issue with this Polkurminia, that insects actually they successfully controlled by that. So I think we have to think of that side also as well in the time to come.
Thanks, Haridas. Parakram, you have some comment to make on this.
I added a comment. Actually, I'm not talking about particular research or anything like that. But in order to move forward, I was just wondering, over the years, NSF would have supported a large number of research projects. Is it worthwhile to looking at to see if there are anything of relevance which have not gone up to the commercialization stage, and inviting industry to collaborate with them to bridge that gap? So that way we might be able to get a faster response to the needs of the day. I hope there will be enough work done, while of course we are proceeding with the way that we have been talking about. So I wonder whether that could be done. Somebody need to go through all the projects that have been done and completed, but not reach the commercial stage. That's the question I want to raise.
Thanks, thank you, Para. Any other comments on any priority areas of needs that are really pain points from industry side? As I said, I'm sure some of you from industry present here today would like to engage in a one-on-one with some thoughts you have, and certainly we will promote that going forward. But in this public forum, anybody would like to, in generic terms, talk about some priority areas that we can focus on in our work at NSF in order to bring the solutions we all want. Dr. Radhika, you have said about ITI. Would you like to comment very quickly on water soluble?
On fish fertilizer, which is water soluble, we could work with the cargills. Basically, if you could start the numbers, we could share work with the cargills on this water soluble fish-based fertilizer. Hello, Mr. Riswi?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's something we can consider. Yeah, so that's something we can work to when we work in a PPP model with Cargills and bring all of this technology in, because we are here not only to solve the Cargills problem, and I'm sure we need to congratulate Cargills and to come into the PPP, but definitely something which can be taken into account with the good work being done at ITI. Mr. Panthusan, you have some comment to make.
Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. I am representing the farmers community from Mullaitivu district.
Yes.
I should say that.
Yes.
From our point of view, we have to focus on the small scale farmers and their needs, because in northern province, almost more than 95% of farmers are small scale farmers. I have few matters to clarify. First thing is how we can use the drones to agriculture purpose in northern area with the IT infrastructures, and if any resource person from that area, if they can briefly explain that, it will be helpful to us.
Yes, Mr. Panthusan, your point is very valid, and I think this is an area even Professor Pradeep alluded to a little while ago. The use of drones is increasingly is offering amazing solutions, and I'm sure particularly for smallholder farmers, and this is an area that NSF will also give leadership to and try to find a way. Chandra, you have any comment on how the use of drone technologies, particularly in working with farmer groups, farmer associations, through even farmer organizations, how we can do engagement in PPP models or engagement in use of these drone and other related IT technologies for development of agriculture. Sandra, any comments?
Yeah, to remember that on 25th, we are both all submitting our proposals to the, and I have one social enterprise project that will encompass the modern technology in rural farming communities. I actually want this gentleman's connection actually so that we will come to him and then, find the solutions. Of course, before we go there, we will have to have a few discussions on like this on webinar, and focusing on this particular issue as a village farm community. And he said that about more than 90% of the farmers, they are smallholders. So basically, that's an excellent opportunity what we are looking for in social enterprise development in that area. So thank you very much.
Ranjit
Yeah, go ahead, Pradeep.
Ranjit Mahindapala.
Yes, Pradeep first and then Ranjit Mahindapala. Go ahead.
I just need to comment. Actually, under ICTA, so that digital transformation journey, we are going to set up a diffusion cells in across country. First one will be in Jaffna. Already, most of the things have been finalized. Through that, we will bring those kind of solution and facilitation to the farmers and people. And I'm happy to say that first one is under, process. Soon we will have a northern diffusion cell, which brings the technologies, basically IT technologies, to the farmers in future. Right now we are working with the GA of Jaffna and other areas, setting up that cells.
Thank you, Pradeep. Mr. Ranjit Mahindapala.
Thank you.
Sorry, you have been having your hand. My apologies. I think I couldn't get you to your comments. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was going to actually revert to the issue of prioritization.
May I go?
Ranjit?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Very faintly. Very faintly.
Can you hear me now?
Now, yes.
Yeah, okay. I know I was going to revert to the issue of prioritization. Now, I think you mentioned a number of times about the industry requirements. These industry requirements are very valid because they come from particular focus areas. A good example is moringa. Moringa is something that is exported, but there's absolutely no research support for the work that has been done on moringa. What is required in the prioritization is to get it into the national agenda and the government's concurrence on the priorities, so that all government agencies like NRC or NSF or CARP or whatever can actually focus on those areas and provide the necessary funds for research. Now that process cannot be done overnight, because you need a great deal of background information, why such and such a crop is needs priority attention. I think NSF should take that into account and maybe start that process. This may be the first step, but I was also pointing out previously, there was a very, very good example of identifying 10 vegetables and 10 fruits back in 1996, and in fact that resulted in today's production of banana, papaya and pineapple, which are now available throughout the year in plenty. Now that kind of prioritization was possible through a evidence-based study where you took into consideration a number of factors on how a crop should be prioritized, or a particular area of action should be prioritized. I suggest that NSF gives that serious thinking into properly and scientifically prioritizing various areas of research that are needed to be funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Just to wind up now, I think we have got a reasonable amount of suggestions, questions, queries, approaches, alluding to models as well. I'm sure all of this will be taken into account, and please be assured, as articulated by the chairman NSF, Professor Ranjit Senratna, that there are lots of approaches being taken, and the NSF approach currently is one that is different, it's refreshing, it's innovative, and I'm sure which will result in some concrete results. There were a lot of questions asked with regard to how is it going to be taken forward. Please be assured that this will definitely be addressed in the way forward document. Some of the work that NSF is doing also is resulting in what is called pitching sessions, and there were some suggestions made, including I think by Engineer Ranjit, by Engineer Parakrama Jayasinghe, about showcasing all the wealth of projects research done by NSF over the years, and whether these can be looked at and brought into a pitching session, and that's certainly something NSF can look to do. Having said that, if I can now go back to summarizing some of the key learnings that came up from today's session, we've looked at several areas, and definitely the organic agriculture area is one in which is going to receive a lot of attention. Something very concrete came out from the industry in terms of a public-private partnership, and that is to work with Cargills in terms of the water-soluble organic fertilizer, particularly for protected agriculture, maybe even for open fields, and that's something certainly which will receive a lot of focus on organic agriculture. Organic agriculture in any case, particularly the pesticide issue, free issues or chemical-free control of crops is going to be the subject of a separate forum as well, and definitely is a high priority area, and all of the views and needs expressed will be taken into consideration here. Of course, this is all coming on an approach which should be evidence-based, which is based on facts that there is going to be a benefit to the crops and also the identification of the crops. So that is very clear that will be done. Then also on processing for agriculture, there was a lot of need expressed in terms of which crops, and clearly there is a lot of published data, a lot of efforts made, like alluded to by Mrs. Indira Malwata in what was done previously, and also including the comments on crops given today here from the avocado, vanilla, and we're seeing with the example of banana and other crops, which today papaya as well, which brought a lot of has brought a lot of additional benefits. In terms of other areas for priority work is the research funding, which we have to look at, and clearly that way forward is through promoting public-private partnerships, and I'm sure industry, a takeaway from this session would be that industry participants here and those from outside also will engage now, and also the NSF will be proactive in reaching out to industry in coming up with, in coming up with areas in which research as well as technology development can take place. Also, there is this idea of the pitching sessions, which is going to happen in some of the other areas as well, including with the SME sector as well, going to happen shortly. But with agriculture also, there is a case for a follow-up work to come for pitching sessions, which can also be in closed room, closed circuit situations or one-on-one. And that's something that is very clearly something that we'd like to work on. So with those comments, I would like to thank each and every one of you. We have run beyond our scheduled time of 12 o'clock, but I think it was well worth it. We lost a little time as well. There is also the focus on the livestock and fisheries industry. We won't be taking fisheries right here in this forum, but it will be definitely worked on, as well as we discussed about the herbs as well as the Ayurvedic area, which will be handled. But where livestock is concerned, clearly there was no direct mention of specific areas, but as I articulated, I know from industry point of view, there is a need to manage the feed, animal feed, the nutrition for both poultry and the dairy sector in order to improve milk yields, to improve and ensure egg production. There is also the case for breeding is a priority research area. So those are my thoughts in terms of the priority areas going forward. And I would like to now firstly invite Professor Chandra Ambuldinia also to validate and comment on some of the priority areas that we can distill from this session. Chandra, first to you, and then of course to Professor Nadira as well to comment as the heads of the two arms of the NSF research as well as technology. Chandra, over to you first.
Thank you very much, Rizvi, and for the excellent moderation of this webinar, and then crystallizing the gems of ideas that came up in the discussions. Actually, I have one message for the private sector who is present here. Number one, the attitude of the National Science Foundation has changed completely from what it was, giving money for research and then expecting results at the national development end. It has taken a transformation from taking the message from the wealth creators and the national needs and then doing research for the country. And I'm sure Professor Ranjit Senaratne will speak on this matter in his closing remarks, that we go from what is needed to what can be done. So basically, that is the attitude. And from my point of view, I'm inviting all the private sector, please come up with your individual corporate problems in the development where you can have the benefit of the wealth of research that we have and the research that has been done for the last 50 years or 70 years, I would say 50 years in our country for agriculture. And we have all the resources. And if there is any existing solution, we'll give it to you. If it is not there, we will initiate it and we will work in partnership with you to give those solutions. So the PPP model is in operation now. Please come to us. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chandra. Before I hand over to Professor Nadira for her quick comments, I also might add that one of the areas that came up for priority work in the crop segments is the moringa. And just as much as we have identified for the organic water soluble fertilizers with as a PPP with Cargills, if there is any person or any company from industry who would like to engage in a PPP for follow-up work on moringa. I know my company, I was engaged with Hades. We did a lot of work with moringa, and there's some additional work. So certainly Hades might be interested, but anybody else who's interested to work with NSF in a PPP on doing the value-added work for moringa. And also I have planted the seed in the initial nascent stage of the plant-based meat substitutes. It is a thriving industry. A lot of empirical evidence and data has been developed. If there are any takers from industry who would like to collaborate with this amazing product, we will be very happy to share some of the base data. This is using the jackfruit as a plant-based meat substitute. Certainly, that's an area that we can also treat as a priority if there is anybody willing to come in to work in a PPP model. Professor Nadira, you'd like to make a few comments before I hand over to Chairman Professor Ranjit for his quick closing.
Thank you, Riz. Yeah, thank you, Rizvi. First, I would like to congratulate you, Dilani, and the agriculture team for this excellent organizing an excellent webinar. Because this is as you already know, this is the first of a series of webinars that we want to plan. So I think this gave a very excellent start to the program. And it is very encouraging, the interest shown by the private sector. So I think we can move ahead from here. As they may have already got, there's a lot of interest on private public partnerships, particularly due to the limited funding and mutual benefits that both parties could accrue. So we hope very much that you will take on this opportunity. And to answer the question about already done project, the post-grant evaluations have been done very, very carefully by the NSF, and the results are available, and those researchers are being approached in order to take them forward with further assistance. So the ones that have been successful will be taken forward, and we are also planning pitching sessions that researchers as well as the industry will can make use of. So there's a lot of hope and positivity. There's optimism all around. So I wish good luck with the rest of the webinars as well. And I would like to thank everyone, all the participants and the resource persons. Thank you, Rizvi.
Thank you, Professor Nadira. So we would like to have the last words and concluding remarks from our leader, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, who is a unique personality who brings a rich blend of knowledge, experience, and thought leadership. And him coming from the area of agriculture, I'm sure, with all due respect to the other areas of science in the NSF, that agriculture, which requires a badly needed boost up in order to transform from subsistence agriculture to commercial agriculture, with benefit to the 30% of the population involved in agriculture in Sri Lanka. So, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, over to you for the final concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Rizvi, for moderating this session in a very wonderful and fruitful manner. And we had very important observations coming particularly from industry, which have really taken note of. And I'm not going to really prioritize anything because that was done by Rizvi in the course of his submission. I want to add that and reiterate that we are strongly committed to working hand in hand with industry. And if I want to also mention that we have our database of S&T personnel, STMIS database, Science and Technology Management Information System at NSF, that includes all leading scientists in our country. And if in certain areas like cutting edge emerging areas, now like artificial intelligence, big data and all that, even in drones, if we need any even external assistance, we have developed a digital platform which comprises over 800 high-profile scientists of Sri Lankan origin across the globe. We are in close contact already now, Rizvi, and we are having discussion with Professor Aruna at this Texas A&M University to start a model, actually vertical farm in Sri Lanka. We are having discussion on that. So I think today discussion really signals a turning point in our activities and our future programs, and we will really not allow the momentum and enthusiasm generated to dissipate. I am sure now our chairperson of the research arm, Professor Nadira, actually, who is actually within the top 2% of the top scientists in the world, right? So she is heading our research arm, and I have mentioned about Dr. Chandra Ambuldhen here and his commitment to innovation and commercialization. And we have actually now Dr. Mr. Rizvi, he actually very closely integrated with this, and he is bringing a whole industry together to NSF. So we have become very close to. Earlier, I think NSF was not very close, but these partnerships have now really brought industry together, and we look forward to working hand in hand and also very closely in a mutual rewarding way. And we would like to also get your contact details, and our staff will follow up with you, and we'll have even one-on-one discussion to see how we could address your needs, concern, and contribute to national development through enhancing the contribution of agriculture sector. I think we need to be, and I'll say in Moringa, what are the issues that they need NSF to really work on? So like that, we like to really get more specific information from industry so that we can have sharply focused research program to resolve those issues. And with this brief observation, many thanks for our two chairperson of the Research and Technology Development House, Professor Nadira Karunavira and Dr. Chandra Ambuldeniya, for the excellent support provided, leadership given to take NSF to a new high, and they are working hand in hand, as I said, seamlessly as one unit, one family. And in this particular event, our Mr. Rishi, he's like a professor actually. When you see his knowledge, more than doctor, because he has, he's global minded, also having his feet on the ground. Sometimes people are walking there, but he's a man having his, eyes on the world and feet on the ground. So we are very lucky to have Rishi, and also now Dr. Janaki, right, who is also a very passionate lady. I think as she ages, her passion really not diminished. It's moving other way around. I'm very happy to see you are very energetic and contribute towards, and our NSF staff, Mahesh and all others, Dilani and all who contributed. Again, many thanks, and also to all our participants who really made actually valuable contribution to make this event success. And we would be in touch with you, and we'll get back to you and follow up on the ideas you propose. Many thanks and take care. All the best. Bye.
Thank you, Professor Ranjit, and all of the proceedings Dilani will make available. Dilani, you'd like to very quickly comment on where the participants can access the information on the YouTube channel as well?
Yes, sir. Mr. Madhav just informed in the chat that it's available in the YouTube. You can access the proceedings of this webinar through the YouTube channel. And also we are planning to come up with a summary report that we will make available in the NSF website. If any special inquiries are there, as I mentioned earlier, you can write to NSF to dilani@nsf.gov.lk or mahesh@nsf.gov.lk, our head's email, and get any inputs, clarifications, or any inquiries on in this about this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much again, and a final word of thanks firstly to the chairman NSF and the two chairs, the research arm and the technology development arm, and importantly to Dilani and her team at NSF, who have done a marvelous job in ensuring that during this pandemic time, when everybody is very concerned and the minds are all focused everywhere else, that in a very focused, disciplined manner, discharged an excellent job in preparing all of the logistics issues. So thank you very much again, and look forward to being continuously engaged with you all. And thank you very much. Have a good day. Be safe.